Good morning, everybody. Welcome. This morning, we're going to get going just as people are kind of grabbing a cup of coffee and getting settled at their computers. We will get going in about 2 minutes here. So at 9:33, we will get the meeting going. So looking forward to a great conversation today. So we will get going here in about 2 minutes. All right. Good morning again, everybody. My name is Dave Mayer, one of the co-chairs of the Provider Supports Subcommittee, and really excited to be able to have everyone here this morning. We have a few items that we're going to talk about before getting into our introductions, and then really looking forward to a great agenda today with a lot of great guests to be able to come and talk to us about a variety of different topics through through the day. So if we could go to the next slide, let's start talking just with our virtual meeting protocols. As a reminder, throughout the webinar, please mute yourself unless you are speaking or responding to a question. We do have question and answer portions dedicated throughout the meeting, but feel free to use the chat box throughout the meeting also to post questions or comments at any time. Each one of the presentations may look a little bit different in terms of when we do the Q&A. Sometimes it might be after a particular slide. Sometimes it might be all the way at the end of the presentation, but we'll keep you up to date on that so you know that your questions will be addressed as we move throughout the day. If for any reason you place the call on hold, if you're on your phone and a music begins to play, your call will be disconnected, and you're just more than welcome to rejoin the meeting once you are available again. And individuals using a webcam or video option, just know that that will be displayed throughout the meeting. Obviously, know that people have a lot of different things going on, and once in a while you may take your video off. But just know it is nice just to be able to see your smiling faces once in a while as well, and that sometimes helps the presenters too. So know that you can kind of go back and forth with having your video off and on throughout the meeting. All right. And our next slide is very important that we make this selection at the beginning of our meeting today. We have a great couple of interpreters with us today, and so we need everybody to select their interpretation for today's meeting. So you see the steps listed on the screen. First, please click on the interpretation globe icon at the bottom of your screen. Click the language you want to hear, and then click mute original audio to silence all other languages. And we do have a couple of folks that are really kind of experts in this area. And so if you do have any specific questions about getting connected to interpretation, if you want to put those questions into the chat, one of our folks that have done this quite often will be able to kind of get you help. Another note, when you come off mute to have comments, especially as we start our introductions here and then throughout the meeting, you just want to remind yourself to move kind of slowly in terms of not talk too fast in terms of your comment or your pace. So we give our interpreters enough time to be able to do their work throughout the meeting. So we will also remind our presenters to do that as well as they're going through their presentations as well. So you'll hear plenty of reminders of that through today's meeting. All right. Then we'll move to our next spot. So one of the things that we haven't done in a few meetings is to actually go through and find out who's in the room. We have a lot of great folks that join this meeting every few months, and it's nice to be able to be connected with and to know the different people that you are hearing from and connecting with throughout this meeting. And it might also kind of get you inspired at a time to reach out to someone because of the location they may be in, or the ages served that they're having, or the type of program that they have. And so we are going to just do not quick, we're going to do introductions. We're going to have people actually come off mute and talk to us about what your name is, where you are located, your role there, and then just a fun question. Our spring officially starts tomorrow. So what's one thing that you're looking forward to this spring, either personally or professionally? So I'm going to start and then throw it to the next person, and then we'll just kind of go through our list here. So if you have the ability to come off mute and share with us when it's your turn, that would be great. So my name's Dave Mayer. I am I'm the Director of Early Childhood Education with the Office for Catholic Schools. My office is actually located in Capitol Hill, right next to the cathedral. But I serve a large geographic region, all the way from Bellingham to Vancouver and as far east as Snoqualmie. So I help to support 56 early learning programs throughout that geographic area. And the thing that I'm looking forward to this spring is for the snow to melt off the mountains so we can get back to all the wonderful trails that we have throughout our region. I'm going to throw it over to Julie and to have her go second, if that works.
Sure, thanks, Dave. I'm Julie.
Yep.
I own a center over in Kitsap County. I'm also one of the tri-chairs of this committee. And what I'm looking forward to in spring, I guess just getting into, planting my strawberries and tomatoes and things like that again. So
Excellent. That's
anyway,
awesome. Thanks, Julie.
Katie, where's Katie?
She had to go drop her kid off at school. So let's
go to Sandra.
We'll go to Sandra.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sandra Nelson. I'm Director of PREM ABC Child Care Center, which is located in Southeast Seattle. We serve children from the ages 1 to 12. We have an ECAP and a Seattle preschool program in our center, as well as a before and after school age program. I am leaving Sunday, March 23rd, for a 2-week cruise through the Sea of Japan. So I'm hoping that I'll see spring over there, even if it's not here.
That's awesome, Sandra. Thanks for sharing that. Dee, would you like to go next? All right. How about Aaron Simmons? Erin, are you have the ability to come off mute?
I sure do.
Excellent.
So my name is Erin Simmons. I am the licensing and compliance specialist for Bezos Academy, and I support all of our programs in Washington State. I am physically located in Bremerton, and I am most looking forward to spring. I really enjoy this time of year for the kids, like just getting outside, the sunshine, the mud puddles. Um, and baseball. It is time for baseball. So
Well,
that's where we're at.
who do you cheer for, Erin?
Oh gosh, so my husband will be really mad, but it's not the Mariners. So
That's okay.
I'm a Dodgers fan at heart, and forever and always. So there you go.
Love it. I love it.
Can you help me? Who shall we pop to next?
Yeah, let's go to Jamie if Jamie has the ability to come off mute.
I have to always make sure I'm like the only Jamie. My name is Jamie Desmond. I am the director of a YMCA Early Learning Center up in Bellingham. We serve kids, infants up to age 5. I am really excited for more daylight. I've been trying to walk more. My job has gotten more and more desk bound as the years have gone on. And so I'm trying to get out and walk more, and it's hard to walk in the dark. So I'm excited for there to be more light in the daylight.
That's awesome, Jamie. I just drove by your location not too long ago, visiting a school up there. So
Oh yeah, we just moved in July. So it's very exciting.
awesome. Cool. Thank you for joining. Janelle Waterman, are you available to come off mute?
I am. Good morning. I am Janelle Waterman. I'm located in Newport, Washington, on the east side of the state. I am a co-owner with my husband of an in-home childcare. We are also foster parents, so we're one of the multi-licensed deals in Washington, so no one really knows how to deal with us. I see you laughing, Jamie. And we also have 5 ECAP spots this year. We did that starting in September, so we're diving into that as well. And I am really looking forward to longer days and being outside more.
Excellent. Jacqueline. Maybe we'll come back to,
Hola.
oh, there she is. Hola.
Hola, muy buenos días. Mi nombre es Jacqueline Chávez, vivo en Pasco, Washington. Algo importante para mí la primavera es más que nada tomar la vitamina D, ya que es algo muy importante que todos necesitamos. Y pues el inicio de la primavera es más sol, más empezar a tomar el sol. Además, me gusta mucho porque las actividades que hacemos con los niños en mi cuidado son mucho más divertidas cuando está el sol, se siente ese calorcito, los niños disfrutan más, podemos estar más tiempo al aire libre. Y además me gusta porque por las tardes puedo salir a caminar, ir a Zumba y el tiempo como que se hace, como que podemos tener más calidad de tiempo porque ya no se oscurece temprano y me gusta mucho. Gracias. Le voy a dar la palabra deja ver, es que no puedo ver quiénes son las que están. Génesis Ruiz.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I am Genesis. I live in Yakima.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Can we pause? Sorry. We're gonna just interpret what Jacqueline just said really quick, and then you're next.
Okay, it's okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. All right, now let's go back to Genesis, I think.
Hi, good morning again. I am Genesis. I live in Yakima. I am owner in a home daycare. I am wearing the flowers in the spring because I love to go for camping with my family
Thank you.
and
That's
play
wonderful.
out there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Will, are you available to come off mute?
Yes, I am. Good morning. I'm Will Moncrief Jr., located in Hope William, Washington. My home office is Olympia. I'm the Child Care Licensing and Exempt Services Manager for the Department of Licensing at the Department of Children, Youth, and Families. And the one thing that I'm looking forward to is just the weather warming up. I'm good with the rain. I'm okay with it, but I just don't like cold and rain.
Awesome. Thanks, Will. Veronica?
Good morning, everyone. Veronica. I am from West Pasco, and the name of my business is Busy Bees. The thing I'm looking forward to and super excited is graduating this spring from Washington State University with human development and early learning. And
Congrats.
yeah, it's been a journey, but very, very, very enriching. And yeah, that's what I look forward to.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah. How about Raquel?
Sí, buenos días. Mi nombre es Raquel. Tengo una guardería. Yo soy la proveedora. Yo vivo en Pasco, Washington. Y algo que me gusta de la primavera, como dijo la compañera, aparte del solecito, son las actividades, los juegos con agua. Y me encanta salir a pasear con mi familia los fines de semana.
So, thank you, Raquel. How about Rochelle?
Gracias.
How about Maria Munoz?
Hello everyone, my name is Maria Munoz. I am located in East Pasco. I'm home provider and stay-able training. Also, I am in my first years for teaching a student with CBC. And I'm so excited. I'm busy with a lot of homework. And I like the spring because I have more opportunity to share with kids outside. You know, the environment is like a more connecting with nature and connecting with kids, what they like and what they enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. How about America?
Oh, hi everyone. My name's America and I have my daycare in Pasco, Washington. So hi to everybody here in Tri-Cities. And I am looking forward to getting our garden program started. Today we're actually going to clean it and hopefully next week the weather's good enough to start planting some seeds with the kids.
Awesome. Thank you, America. And if you have the opportunity to look in the chat, there are a few folks that are in classes right now. So there's some great notes from Rochelle, from Diana, from Dee, from Katie, from Mindy. So them introducing themselves and letting us know kind of where they're at as well. Jen Thompson, are you available to come off mute? She is not. Excellent. That's okay. Let's see, looking through our list. We do have some great folks with us from DSYF too. Taylor, would you like to introduce?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Taylor Nussbaum. My pronouns are she, they. I am tuning in from DCYF. I am currently the Licensing Division Quality Assurance Continuous Quality Improvement Manager. And I'm located in Vancouver, Washington, and I'm really excited to go check out the cherry blossoms over on the Portland side. That's what I'm looking
Awesome.
forward to.
That's awesome. How about Aaron?
Oh, I see Lois has her hand up. Lois, do you
Oh,
want to
sorry,
go first?
Lois. Good. Yeah, good catch.
Yeah, sorry. If you called my name Dave, I'm a little distracted today, so my apologies. So Lois,
Oh, good, my friend. It's good to see you.
yeah, it's good to see you too. Or as the old folks say, it's good to be seen.
There you go.
Lois Martin, I'm located in the Central District of Seattle. I am a owner director of a center that was established in 1963, and I have over 30 some years experience working in the early learning field. I'm very excited for spring. I think, like most people, for me, it's the longer days. Looking forward to our center garden. We have a program that we called STEM Through Gardening. So that'll kick off the middle of April. So really excited about that. And there's nothing as warming to the heart than seeing a 2-year-old pull a carrot out of the ground. So I'm looking forward to having those new memories this summer. Thank you, Dave.
That's awesome. Thanks, Lois. All right, Aaron, you want to give it another shot?
Sure. Good morning. My name is Erin. I am a community engagement administrator here at DCYF. Professionally based in Olympia, but I'm located in Seattle. And I'm going to be a stereotypical Washingtonian and say I'm mostly looking forward to the longer days. I'm a big time outside person. So, I mean, I'm outside in the dark regardless, but it's nicer to be outside when it's not dark. So very much looking forward to the vitamin D.
Absolutely. Thank you. How about Emily Morgan?
Good morning. My name is Emily Morgan. I use she, her pronouns. I'm in Spokane and I'm the acting Deputy Director of Community Engagement. And I'm looking forward to, in a couple weeks, I'm going to back home to the Midwest to go to a spring fling fundraiser for a nonprofit that's close to my heart. And I get to go with my best friend who's pregnant with identical twin girls. So I'm really excited to see her and her growing belly and get to see some family and friends and bring my son.
So cool. Excellent. Cynthia?
Hello, everyone. My name is Cynthia. I'm
Sorry.
located in. Do you hear me?
Yes, very much. I just didn't say your name correctly before, so I apologize.
Oh, it's okay. I'm located in Seattle. I have just started to work in the early learning division in the CYF. And I'm very much looking forward for the flowers this spring. I had just started gardening, so yeah, we'll see.
Wonderful. Thank you. Lorena Miranda?
Hi, good morning. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm outside.
We sure can.
Um,
Oh. All right. I think how about Dieta?
Hey everyone, I'm Dieta Simmons. I'm one of the senior directors at Cultivate Learning and I lead the quality recognition work. Happy to be here with you guys today.
And Jessica Spencer.
Good morning, everyone. Jessica Spencer. I'm on the DCYF community engagement team. And I am very excited because my brother is moving his family to the Tri-Cities in 2 weeks with my 3-month-old niece. So we spend time with her.
Lorena, do you want to give us another shot? So you pop back on there for a second.
yeah, I don't know if you can hear me now.
We can.
Okay, good. My name is Lorena Miranda. I'm a licensed childcare provider for the Yakima area. I've been a licensed childcare provider for over 6 years, almost 7 years. And I'm an advocate working with different groups to advocate for childcare providers in the area. And looking forward to spring. I don't like the cold.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I know there's a few people on here that just had phone numbers as well. So if you haven't had the chance to either introduce yourself in the chat or to unmute and introduce yourself, we'd be more than happy to have you do that now. I don't want to miss anybody.
Dave, I'm back.
Oh, wonderful. Hi, Katie.
Hi, guys. This is Katie Hudkins. I'm the owner of Treetop Village Early Learning Centers over in Kitsap in Bremerton. And I'm also one of the co-chairs hosting today. So welcome, everybody.
All right. Do we have anybody else that would like to unmute and introduce themselves that I missed?
Sí, bueno.
Good morning, Olga.
Sí, yo soy Olga. Sí, yo soy Olga Aguilar. Estoy en el área de Pasco. Tengo daycare de casa. Y me gusta mucho la primavera porque me gusta salir a caminar al parque y mirar las flores y pues que no esté tan frío.
Thank you, Olga. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Violet Ramos. I'm in the Moses Lake area. I have a child care center 24 hours, 7 days a week as parents
Amazing.
need my services. And I'm waiting for spring because the kids love to be outdoors. And I'm really excited for the kids. They want to do different projects outdoors. And it's going to be a good spring, a good year.
Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Right. 24/7 is amazing. That's
Yes,
so cool.
it's helped my community so much.
Absolutely.
We
Absolutely.
need more providers to do that in different regions.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for taking the time this morning to do that. I know we don't have the opportunity to do that at every meeting, but it is really cool to be able to hear all the different types of providers that are able to come and participate at this meeting, and also just the wide and varied ways in which we are caring for the children and the families in our community. So I really appreciate you sharing, and hopefully you made a connection with someone either by geographic region or with the work that they're doing, that we can further build our provider community throughout our state. So thank you. All right, now we are going to do some review of the meeting materials before we get to our first presentation. And so the first one that we are going to do today, and Jessica is going to put these in the into the chat as well. But the first one we are going to look at today, I got to get to my right piece, is the January meeting minutes. So I'm just going to ask that people spend 2 minutes, if you haven't already, to review those meeting minutes. They are now in the chat. Jessica's put them in there. And also they were sent out to you in the email that came out prior to the meeting as well. So review those for 2 minutes, and then we'll just open it up to see if anybody has any questions. All right. Any questions about, second. Any questions about anything in the meeting minutes?
Is there any follow-up on the section where PACE is?
Veronica, can you ask that question again?
If there is any updates on or follow-ups on the PACE section?
Anyone from our partners at DCYF? I think that had to do with looking at making PACE more accessible for folks. And I think that I read a note that we were going to get an update on that in June, but I just wanted to see if anybody had anything else that they'd want to add to that piece.
Marlene can jump in to correct me if I'm wrong, but my notes are the same, Dave, that we are expecting a follow-up from that, but not till the next meeting, likely.
Thank you for lifting that up, Veronica, though, and it will definitely be a part of our June meeting to be able to get an update on the accessibility for that for those trainings. And Jessica, do you have the slide for the child care survey? Because I think that was in the minutes as well.
I don't have a
All
slide for that, but it's a link.
All right, perfect. Thank you. So Jessica in the chat put a link to a document that is the kind of a timeline of the creation of the Child Care Monitor Visit Survey. And so this was talked about at our last meeting as well. And what this document does is outline the timeline from 2021, and even if it went back further than that, but we have it since 2021 of kind of the development and the key milestones of the survey development. So it talks about the different meetings in which the provider supports team brought up the idea of the survey as a good idea. It also highlights a couple of the folks that DCYF reviewed the survey with, a child care center in Yakima, and then the SEIU 925. I think one of the things that really kind of calls out to me in this particular section is in the bottom in 2025 to 2026, is that the survey is currently live and actively collecting feedback at this time. And data will be reviewed periodically to inform our group and DCYF practices. However, after 1 year of this being active, the survey is going to be reassessed. And I think learning from our experience from the first time of the creation of the child care survey, the DCYF will bring the survey forward to this group in a more intentional manner to be able to look at the assessment of how it went over the course of the first year and to be able to ask this group for potential adjustments or changes in the survey for its future iterations. And so I think that's really to me what is the key to this moving forward. All right. So the next piece that is going to be put into the chat is going to be the review of the feedback loop. And so I'm going to ask again that people just review that for the next minute or two, and then we will ask for any questions for the feedback loop. All right, one question has come into the chat, and I don't know if we have the person here to be able to answer this question, but we'll give it a shot. Dee was asking, the minutes included a response that DCYF will look into the wait list for North Seattle early childhood education program and report back. Is there any news about the lack of funds? Some folks are now paying for the initial and short certificates for their staff.
I'm looking to see if there's any program staff on here that might know the answer. If there are any, please feel free to interrupt me. I do not believe we have any information about funding at this time. I believe we're still waiting I'm not exactly sure what the nature of this funding is. So I don't want to say that definitely, but I don't believe we have any budget updates to share yet. We're still waiting on that.
Thanks, Aaron. And my colleagues also informed me too that I was saying June meeting before, but that meeting is likely in May. So obviously more information when the next meeting date comes out. So I apologize for that info. Any other comments on the feedback loop or questions? And thank you, Dee, for your question. That one will continue to be included in it, so it continues to rise to the top and is not, it doesn't go away. Jen, go ahead.
Sorry, I had to unmute.
No,
I
you're
just
fine.
had a quick question, and I apologize if I missed reading it. Are providers being told or given a paper or something that this is happening, that they have the opportunity to go fill out the survey? Because there's a lot of providers that I've spoke to that had no idea whatsoever.
I don't know if there's anybody from licensing on here that can talk a little bit more about the back end, but I believe it is, I believe that it's sent via email alert as an automatic trigger after a monitoring visit. Yeah.
I
Okay.
only know a little, Erin, but that's correct. It'll come after your monitor visit, and then you'll fill it out. And yeah, so if the licensors, what I learned in the last meeting, the licensors should be bringing something to speak with you about as well. So there's, so you're being told about it during your visit as well. So you're kind of not caught off guard. Hopefully that helps.
Interesting. Okay. No, thank you for the information.
Jen, the other key note is that it is located in the program's provider portal. And so after the monitoring visit, they should have the ability to be able to access it via the provider portal, where they would be signing the monitoring visit document as well. Yep.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Sandra?
Thanks, Dave. I wasn't here during the January meeting, but in regards to the PACE program, is there anyone at DCYF that we can talk to about that qualifications and information on it, or do we have to go somewhere else? Oops. I didn't switch to a different language. Wait a minute.
Oh,
You're
no.
good.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, okay.
Sandra, were you asking as far as, is there somebody to connect with at DCYF for questions? Oh, it looks like Diana is. Thank you,
Yeah,
Diana.
in the chat, Sandra, Diana put the contact for Susie Campbell.
That's what I do.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And thanks, Diana. All right, and then our next document that we'll review for a minute is the agency updates. And so Jessica will put that one in there, and we'll have 1 minute to review to see if there's any questions on that. The one piece to call out that Jessica has been kind enough to put a slide up on the screen for us in the agency update is that there has been an amendment to WAC, as you can see there, 182.545-200. And it allows, this is a positive thing, it provides continuous support for children with developmental needs through age 6. So this allows outpatient rehabilitation providers like physical and speech therapy to deliver care in community settings, including childcare, up to age 6. The reason that this change was important is because there was a gap between 3 and 5 years of age for some of these services in childcare, and now that gap will go away. And so kids would be able to be served in this way with that physical and speech therapy and occupational therapy all the way up until we get to until they get to kindergarten and continue to have their supports in that way. So this I didn't want this or we didn't want this to get buried in the agency updates, because this is a great change to be able to help support kids that are dealing with some of those developmental needs. And Dee had a question in the chat. Can we get a resource list for available agencies offering developmental care on or at childcare sites? I don't know if anybody from DCOF is here to that has that expertise, but maybe we can include that to be able to see in the feedback loop for the future. All right, and I promised Erin 5 minutes, but now I have 1. So I'm going to let her jump in right here on a note about the charter development update. Sorry about our timing.
Yeah, no worries. I don't think I need much time. I just have a couple really quick updates to share. One is just a brief update on where we are with the provider supports charter development. So as most of you know, we are going to be developing a new charter and guiding documents for the provider support subcommittee. We're in the process of working through some of the foundational pieces with the ELAC executive committee right now. And once we have kind of once we have some of the groundwork done with the general structure of the subcommittee, we'll be coming back here to get feedback on some of the other pieces of the charter. So you can expect at least some, we'll have somewhat of an update for the May meeting, but I think July is probably a more realistic timeline for when we'll be able to share a lot of content and dig in. And on your screen, you'll see I wanted to share the current draft of the 2025 provider supports work plan that we're working with right now. We're also going to be sending this draft in the follow-up email just to give everyone an opportunity to share any edits or feedback that they might have. So a note about the work plan is this is one draft to a working document. So this document changes a lot as we go through the year, but this is kind of our starting place for the working document that we use to track topics and make sure that we are connecting with the internal programs at DCYF to track any upcoming feedback opportunities and things of that nature. So we came up with this from feedback from you guys, collecting info on your top priority topics. We also worked really closely with the government affairs team and internal staff in the early learning and licensing divisions to try to get our arms around what we'll be working on this year. So that is what is reflected in this initial draft. So if there's something on here that you have questions about, if there's something not on here that you think should be, we are wide open to any input you may have. So like I said, we will be sharing this in the follow-up email to give you an opportunity to provide any feedback you may have. And we are also always willing to take a look at this and make additions subtractions, edits, anything throughout the year. So I just wanted to give you guys a peek into what we work with on the internal end to keep track of everything that is going to be coming to you guys this year. So I believe, I don't know if we have this document in the chat. Oh, we do. Jessica put it in the chat. So if anybody has any questions now, I might be able to take one or two. But otherwise, please feel free to share any questions and feedback via email, or you can reach out to any of us on the chat here.
Awesome. Thanks, Erin. We went through a lot of information with the minutes, the feedback loop, the agency updates, and things like that. So all of those links are in the chat. And so as the meeting continues, if you're continuing to read through those items, if you have any questions that maybe we didn't address right now, or if something pops up to you later, can you please continue to put those in the chat so we can capture them for these meeting minutes and for feedback loop information. Everything in the chat has already been captured, so it continues to rise to the top, so we don't miss anything in the future. All right, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Julie, who is going to introduce our first presenters for the day.
Thanks, Dave. So for our next topic, we're going to be getting an overview of the early care and education facilities exploration project that complements the early care and education access and living wage proviso. So today we've got Allegra Calder, who's the project manager at Burke Consulting, Barbara Rosen, the subject matter expert at Burke's Consulting, and Diana Stokes, who we all know. She's DCYF's access and living wage manager. So go ahead. I understand Diana's running it, this section.
Thanks, Julie. It's great to see everybody this morning. We're going to go ahead and go into our next slide, which highlights the agenda for today.
Wait, 1 minute. Andrea, creo que estás en otro canal. Tienes que meterte al de español, por favor. Gracias. Yo sí, pero estás hablando en el canal de inglés, entonces cuando estás interpretando en español, te oyen los de inglés. A ver, Diana, do you want to see? Okay, yeah, Diana, go ahead. Oh, okay.
Thanks, Marlene. So our agenda, as Julie mentioned, is we're here to share about this facilities exploration project. We want to outline the different ways that the provider support subcommittee can be involved in this work. And then at the very end, we would love to learn from you all. We'll provide this overview. We're going to summarize what we know and the efforts to date. We're going to talk about the different engagement opportunities, and we have opportunity for discussion and questions at the end. As we go in, I'd love to introduce our project team. So again, my name is Diana Stokes. I'm with DCYF. Additionally, from DCYF supporting this work is Tracy Schreiber. And then I would like Allegra and Barb to pop on and say hi quick.
Great. Thanks, Diana. Hi, everyone. My name is Allegra Calder. I'm with Burke Consulting. We're a public policy consulting firm based here in Washington, and we are leading the project. And we have a great team here at Burke. Stella Streufert is on the call as well today, and will join the discussion groups. And we're also really honored and privileged to have two great subject matter experts on our team as well. Sarah Emmons is not here today, but Barb Rosen is. So I'll pass it to Barb.
Hi, everyone. I'm Barb, and I've been working in early child care policy for many years now as an independent consultant, and have focused on facilities the last couple of years. So I'm really excited to be part of this project and working with Burke and DCYF to continue this great work. So happy to share more.
And you'll hear from Barb and Allegra as we move forward. As Julie mentioned, this work is really connected to the Early Care and Education Access and Living Wage Proviso. So if we can move to the next slide here, this is a quick overview of the work that's happening. So as we think about universal access and increasing access that's affordable for our families, we really also need to understand the need for early learning facilities and overcome these identified challenges that will support development and expansion of programs. And so this really leads into this exploration project, but it's really meant to be a continuation of the Access and Living Wage Proviso. So while that implementation plan will be submitted to legislators later this summer, this facilities work will continue on and build our knowledge as how we support families. As the next slide, in case it's not on top what that proviso is, we're really looking at how do we increase access to high quality, affordable childcare for families where they're paying no more than 7% of their family income, but also uplifting the early care and education workforce with living and thriving wages, including benefits. And so we really want to honor our mixed delivery system that we have here in Washington and really support children with increasing their child outcomes, school readiness, and really focusing on supporting the family and providers' well-being and self-sufficiency within our programs. This next slide is a timeline of all this work that has happened. And if you've heard me in the past present about this, this is nothing new. But it's really building up from the Fair Start for Kids Act and the investment that was made there. It builds on the Child Care Collaborative Task Force work that's been done, early educator design team. There's been work in the past with the Office of Child Care, getting them to approve our rate model alternative methodology. So we build up to where we're going. In December, we submitted a progress update to legislators to let them know where we were going with the implementation plan. And then that will come later this summer, and this will continue on with the facilities work and as we continue moving forward. And of course, we are watching what is happening with this legislative session. This implementation plan still is our North Star of where we want to go, and recognize that our starting point may change from where we're at today, but we're still moving forward with the recommendations that are going to be best supported. And I do appreciate. Yes. Thank you. The feedback that we received from all of you was super helpful in informing the recommendations. And as we go through today, you'll really help inform the recommendations for the facilities project. And with that, I will hand over to Allegra.
Okay, so just to sort of set the context of where we are in the work, we started just at the end of the year, so we are relatively early in the process, and we'll be probably back with this committee again, and we'll share in a moment some other ways that you can get involved. But we just wrapped up a summary of prior efforts and investments to just sort of put this work in the context of ongoing efforts over the years, and Barb will share a little bit more about that in a moment. And we're working towards a literature review, very much focused on what are the identified solutions. I think Diana mentioned there are a lot of challenges. We're well aware of what they are. And over the years, other states and even here in Washington, people have been working on what are the ways that we can start to overcome those challenges. So we do have a work group, which I'll talk through in a minute, and you can see that we're working towards a final implementation plan for May of 2026. So still a lot of time to get involved if you have an interest or perspectives you'd like to share. Next slide, please. So our work is obviously focused more narrowly on the child care facilities, but it obviously depends on the work that Diana just spoke about. And we in Washington, I think, have been working on this issue, as you all know, for a long time. And the state has actually given considerable public dollars in the form of grants and loans. However, as with many challenges, money is not the only thing that's needed. It certainly matters, but there are other factors. And some of these identified challenges do relate to local land use permitting and zoning, which is set at the local level and therefore not always consistent. Reimbursement and match requirements have been raised in the past. And development is a complex process, particularly when public funds are involved, and if it's not part of your regular workflow. So there is a lot of technical assistance that's required, and we're learning all the time about how to make that technical assistance easier to understand, more culturally appropriate, and available in language. We know we need more facilities, and whether that comes through development, through expansion of existing facilities, or through conversion of other buildings, we've got to build more. So we are very much focused on how do we move Washington closer to meeting its goals around expanding access to high quality care, given what we know about what works. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, we are evaluating the needs for facilities across Washington and what supports are needed. We would acknowledge that we have some incomplete data in some cases. Tribal need is one place we know that that's the case, and I suspect there are others. We are finishing up this literature review, as mentioned, and working towards an implementation plan. And then we've pulled together a facilities work group about next. Next slide, please. So, okay, I'm going to actually pass it to Barb. Apologies, our slides are in a slightly different order than I was expecting. So I'll come back to the work group and Barb will talk about this framework.
Thanks, Allegra. So as Allegra mentioned, we are doing a literature review right now. And as part of that, we have been looking at what other states and cities have done on the issue of facilities. And so we've been starting to group those recommendations into generally 6 categories. So I'm going to walk you through what those are, and then as we develop our own recommendations, we can, we'll likely group them in a similar way. So the first one is around advocacy for childcare as public infrastructure. So in the US, as you all know, childcare is not considered a public good like it is for K-12 education. It's not a universal public system. Even though we all acknowledge that we need childcare for children's emotional and academic development and also for parents to return to work. But as a result of this, childcare planning is not really required as part of what a land use planner typically is required to do. So like the things that they plan for that are considered public goods, like parks and public schools and transportation, are part of their job description, but childcare unfortunately is not. And so we're looking at ways that and this is done at the local level, so different cities and counties have incorporated childcare into their land use planning documents. So like what they call the comprehensive plan is where they put their goals for what they're planning for, so that can then trickle down into actual regulations that affect childcare, because even though it might not be part of the requirements, it is something that is being regulated at the land use and local level, so around zoning and permitting and things of that nature. So that's the first category. How do folks do that at different levels? The second category is around regulatory alignment and streamlining. So how do we align all of these different regulations across many different agencies that affect the development of facilities? So that can, span building code, fire marshals, Department of Health, zoning, all of these different agencies that interact with facilities. How do we get those more in line so that there's not repetitive or even some regulations that don't agree, and how do we streamline those where possible. The other category is around capacity building. So how do we help providers navigate the existing system we have and the regulations that are in place to help them build more facilities? And this can also relate to other professionals that that also, you know, help with the building of facilities. So developers and architects and other folks that help with the process. The fourth category is around public financing for early care and education. So, you know, one big example that I'll talk a little bit more about is the Early Learning Facilities Fund at the state. So that's a big, you know, pot of money for childcare facilities. But there's other ways that we can support, you know, public financing for childcare facilities, like through how do we help renovate or reutilize existing buildings like school buildings or community centers or things, churches for childcare, and how do we co-locate with projects like big affordable housing developments. The fifth category is more about how do we incentivize developers and others to build out childcare facilities, possibly through some tax exemptions or waivers of certain fees or reduction of fees. So how do we get the barriers, those types of barriers, to go down so that we can encourage more development? And the final category is just we're looking at some innovative models for both ownership and financing of facilities that folks are trying out in different places. So those are the main categories. And the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this catalog of, in our state, of major facilities milestones. And I'm not going to go through all of this because there's a lot on this slide. But I think the big key things to note here are 2017 was when the Early Learning Facilities Fund was founded at the state level. So it's operated by Department of Commerce in partnership with DCYF. And if you look at the bottom of this slide, it shows you how that funding stream has gone up over the last few years. So from when it was founded, it was a $15 million appropriation. It's gone up over the years to 97 million in the last 2 years. So that has been a successful program and has really continued to gain funding over the years, which is great. Another key milestone is in 2018. The Child Care Collaborative Task Force was convened for the first time. And over the past few years, they've put out several reports that have provided recommendations to the legislature on both how to make childcare more accessible and more affordable, and have also looked at the facilities piece. You know, one notable achievement throughout this time period was the Fair Starts for Kids Act, the $1 billion investment in childcare access and affordability. That was 2021. And then I would just say the cost of care, cost of quality childcare model that was developed as part of the Collaborative Childcare Task Force that was published in 2022 and is obviously part of the work that Diana is doing and the recommendations there. And the latest report looks like came out in 2024. So those are the big milestones. And then I will pass it back to Allegra.
So as I mentioned, we do have a facilities work group. This group will meet about 5 times starting in May until April of 2026. And we're really using this group as a sounding board to sort of stress test some of our ideas, provide some high-level guidance, and then review some of the interim product and help us with the recommendations and the implementation plan. We're really looking to explore challenges and solutions from the perspective of what do providers need to be successful with facilities, and then what do the subject matter experts out in the community need when they're getting questions related to technical assistance. How do we sort of improve the quality of that and make sure that there's good communication in both directions? We have 2 members. Well, on the next page, I'll show you the invited member organizations. And we have, I believe that that ELAC has selected April Messenger and Lois Martin to participate as representatives. But we've got a diverse body here, and I'll share that we also would love for people to get involved in other ways. And I'm going to, on our next slide, we actually have sort of a form that you can use by the QR code. I should be able to put that in the chat as well. Oh, great. Thank you, Jessica, has put the interest survey in the chat as well. We'd love to speak with you if you have facilities experience, you have ideas on what should happen, things that have gone well, things that maybe haven't gone well. So we're having people submit this interest survey, and we may do some group interviews if there's kind of similar experience, potentially similar region of the state, or we may reach out to do an individual interview. But definitely want to speak to as many people as we can throughout the process. As I mentioned, we will continue to do additional research and analysis. We would certainly come back to future meetings of this group, the larger ELAC group, want to do what we're going to do today in a minute and just sort of really engage you in discussion. And then, as you know, very shortly, you'll have the early care and education access and living wage implementation plan. So I think what we could do, we'd like to spend the next about half an hour, I think, or 25 minutes. We are planning to break into smaller groups and actually discuss these questions together. Don't need to go in the order they're in, but wanted to start the conversation here in smaller groups. But maybe before we break into groups, did want to just see if there were any clarifying questions anybody had about sort of the study, timeline, anything like that. All right. Well, I think you'll have two of us from the study team in each group, and we'll help facilitate this. I can also put these questions in the chat because I think that will go into your breakout room as well, since we may not have access to the slides.
And Julie, do you have a preference on group size, or staying as a larger group for English and a group for Spanish? Any preference on that?
No, I'm wondering, maybe Jessica can fill us in on how many providers are in the meeting today. And
Yeah, so we have it set up as everyone can choose their own room. We're gonna have one English, one Spanish, and we'll have facilitators in each. And if anyone has trouble joining a room, just let us know either verbally or in the chat, and Marlene and I can assign you to either an English or Spanish room.
sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie and Jessica. So yes, please join one of the breakout groups based on your language preference, and we'll be there to help facilitate the conversation, remind you of what the questions, and to capture any notes. The great thing about these breakout groups is you don't have to add your responses to anything. We will take care of that for you. And then we'll come back together at the end and reshare that last slide as a reminder of how you can engage in this work moving forward.
Would you like the rooms to be open for 20 minutes and then come back as a big group?
That would be great, yeah.
Oh, and then just really quickly, for Spanish speakers, though these questions should be translated if they were in the PowerPoint slides. So we should have them. Okay, yeah. So Spanish speakers, you must download the PowerPoint. Otherwise, I'll try to copy the questions and put them in the chat too.
Katie also has them, and she'll be in the breakout group.
Okay, good. Yes, thank you.
Okay, we'll see you all in the breakout group. Thank you.
Does anyone need help joining a room?
Yo no puedo ingresar al cuarto, no sé en dónde compartieron la diapositiva para poder meterme.
Ah, sí, Claudia, yo te mando al cuarto de español y no te preocupes de la presentación, las preguntas las van a tener en ese cuarto de español. Entonces, te voy a mandar al de español, un momentito.
Muchas gracias.
Okay, welcome back. Did we have more to share? We've got some more time, Diana.
We don't have time.
Please. We have until 11:15, and then we're going to take a short break.
Maybe yes. So we could go back into breakout groups then?
If that's what you'd like to do, sure.
Or what is the preference? I want to leave it up to the group. Do we want to share anything here or go back to the groups for about 10 minutes?
I mean, it's not really a topic that is sensitive where a provider is going to feel like they can't share. I think it's fine to continue here.
Okay.
Sandra, were you done with your, did you want to continue or did you have more to say?
Just that right now, I don't know what the status is of pre-licensing. Are they fully are they have employees that are working now?
Yes. Tracy, do you want to speak to that? You're a little bit more knowledgeable on the specifics there.
Yeah, I think what I can say is it's been a challenging time for us too at DCYF with staff and the program getting up and running. I think that right now there's still a focus on folks who are looking to expand and apply for that ELF grant, but they are still in process, and we have a meeting with them today. We can follow up and provide y'all an update in the meeting notes.
Are there other questions or anyone else want to share their experience opening or trying to open or move locations for their center or family home?
I would definitely like to echo the sentiment about staffing. We are just at a wall. Even for classrooms I know that I currently have, I don't have a staffing for. So even though the city is looking for, I'm in Seattle, the city is looking for childcare centers in the apartment buildings that they're building now. Without staffing, we really can't commit to that outlay.
I think that's, oh, go ahead.
Go
Jane.
ahead, Diane. I was just gonna say that's a huge problem that I don't think that people that are in the field in the trenches fully understand, is that we have to lift both up at the same time. And I see a lot of people investing in this field who are like capacity, classrooms, centers, but there's no work over here for increasing the workforce and making it a livable, job. And so we really have to educate the public as to why it is important to do both at the same time, because otherwise we're going to have all these empty buildings that are licensed for kids with no with no teachers to run them. So I agree with you, Sandy.
As well, I agree with you. I know like there's the complex grant that's ends today. The amount that they have, 30,000 for a year, does not equate to a Seattle livable wage. It equates to a $17 an hour at like I don't know, 34 hours a week. So that's not enticing when they can go around the corner and not have to support children with complex needs or in the room. I feel it's something that does need to get more support, like you mentioned, the staffing, because we're lacking that main concept of teachers.
I agree. And I think there's a challenge too when we think about numbers, right? We know there's license capacity, but that's not always the ideal capacity that we want within each classroom. Children benefit from smaller group sizes, but we don't always have the staff to make those ratios smaller. So that is something else we need to be cognitive of, and thinking about facilities and meeting the needs of the children in those community, because they may have different needs in a classroom too. So I appreciate all that you're saying. And just like you said, Jamie, we can't do one without doing the other, right? We can't increase care for families without having the workforce in the classroom to care for them. And so the cost of quality care rates, will help with that. It's just going to take time to get there. And how do we find an interim measure to uplift and bring those teachers into the classroom in the meantime?
Diana, if I could just jump in for a minute. I know that there's been people that have said, including you, and others have said before, but group sizes, ratios should be different and all of that. And I just want to counter a little bit and say, I've walked into classrooms at different centers when I used to go and tour places. And you could see 5 teachers in a classroom and the whole classroom is struggling just because they don't have the experience or know-how, right? And then you can walk into another classroom that's got the 20 to 2, and it's a beautiful thing. Like there's happy noise, there's organization, there's busy children. So it's really not about the ratio, in my opinion. It's really about those teachers, which is why my focus is always on my teachers. My teacher's focus is on the kids. My focus is on the teachers. So I'm glad for the work that you're doing on the wage stuff, and hopefully that will mean that we can keep some of our long-term people longer, and keep them in the workforce for us.
I saw that. So one of the things, at least like in our region that my experience is, there's a lot of teachers in classrooms or even early learning educators that do not have a valid social. So they manage to get either their license through a different avenue that doesn't have that, which is really interesting to me, because you cannot take care of someone that's elderly without that. However, with early learning, it is happening. And with elder care, the pay is rather high, much higher than what it is in early learning. My question is, are they constantly minimizing salary for educators because there's a possible trend that I feel is like discriminative, because somewhere someone may know that there's a loophole hiring someone that's not legally able to work and will benefit from anything out there to be able to provide a quality life for their children. I think that's something that should be looked into. I know at a prior meeting they said they knew about it. And I'm not saying I don't want them to, but I'm feeling that if that's a reason why they don't pay quality pay, it's not just us or centers or homes that are struggling because of that, our children are going to be lacking a lot of support because it's not an enticing field for many, unless you have a heart.
Definitely need the heart, that's for sure, Veronica. Allegra and Barb, have we looked at adult care or elder care with our literature review? Might be something worth just comparing and seeing. I appreciate you bringing that up, Veronica, and we can kind of see how that fits in the research that we do over the next year and a half.
Yeah, I was just dumbfounded. I just felt like, is this someone creating this or doing this, finding a loophole to be able to continue to pay our humans a very small wage? And we're the ones making sure that the children are safe so that our economy is thriving. But the ones that are there supporting are not.
Do you know if there's anyone in the pre-licensing group that really understands the permits and the fire marshal and the architects and all the different things that people have brought up as barriers?
Go ahead, Tracy.
I mean, I'm not sure that this is like necessarily what you're hoping to hear, but I think that what's tricky about it is that the intricacies of how other agencies have regulatory authority versus us having regulatory authority and where those things mesh. We don't have control. So it's tricky because there's whole fields around building permitting and fire and a lot of different local rules. And so I think that they can speak to some of those things. But again, the authority of all of those things will always be the fire marshal or the building code person. And so the authority really lies outside of our agency to speak to them in a definitive sort of way.
I think the work to be done, in my experience, is then to be able to build relationships with those folks. And so the ability just to be able to like send a quick text or a quick email, or I have this person just that will answer my call to be able to get quick answers might be a pathway. So not that you're the expert, but not just hearing, well, we'll see when the fire marshal comes. I think the ability to be able to get quicker answers and know that they're confident in the person that is going to be answering those questions might be a good pathway.
And that's one of the things that we hope to get with this work group too, is start to build those relationships with those entities that are responsible for that. In the ideal world, we'll have a directory where we can connect to people in their communities. So if you don't know who to go to, we can help build that relationship. And as Tracy said, there's some things where not within our purview, but how do we help bridge that without having to be the expert? So that is one of our goals in this work, to build that and to help them with their knowledge and know about the challenges that childcare providers have in navigating the things. We may not be able to solve it, but at least we can have some conversations to help build solutions or alternative methods to meet both set of requirements.
I haven't opened a center in over 20 years, but I think if I was, I would CC Jody Hitchings on every single email from permits to fire marshal or whatever, just to make sure she's looped in. And I did have her as a licenser. She's ultra organized and very knowledgeable. And
Yes,
she's running that group apparently. So the pre-licensing group.
Yep, she's one of the pre-licensing supervisors.
Yeah, maybe somebody could drop her email address in here for anybody that is experiencing, a new center, a new location, whatever that is. So we are done though. We're ready to move on. We're going to have a break for about 15 minutes. Well, for 15 minutes. So I want to thank you, Diana. Always a pleasure to have you and your wealth of knowledge. And Allegra and I know we had Barbara and a couple others that but thank you all of you for coming. I think it was really helpful to have you in the breakout room running that and asking questions. So I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take a little time, guys, to fill out the Survey Monkey, and we will return at 11:30. We'll just wait a minute as folks are coming back.
Let's see. All right, so 11:30, let's get going. So we are on time. The next topic, it's been so busy this year with the legislation, and early learning has had ups and downs. So today, Courtney Parker's here from the Government Affairs Policy, and she's the advisor. So she's going to give us some updates of what's been going on thus far this year for early learning. Thank you, Courtney. We appreciate you coming today.
Thank you, Katie. That was a great intro, a good description of the ups and the downs. I appreciate that. Yeah, my name is Courtney Parker. I am a policy advisor within the government affairs team at DCYF. I cover early learning and education. And like Katie said, I'm here today to provide an update on just where we are at in the legislative session, on DCYF's legislative proposals, and then just the bills that we are tracking. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is a slide that I'm sure many folks are familiar with at this point, but it's a great high-level sort of timeline that's helpful for process and for understanding the intersection of various roles. And you can see that the circle has now moved to be around February and March, where we are well into session. But back in December, former Governor Inslee proposed his budget to the legislature. Legislators are deep in their contemplative work to pass a budget, which will then go to Governor Ferguson for signature that will go into effect in July. And also noting that the Economic and Revenue Forecast Council released their quarterly update yesterday. And I will go ahead and drop that into the chat for people to take a look at. And also noting that the legislature, both House and Senate, will be releasing their budgets this coming Monday, March 24th. So a lot happening, a busy time of session. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. So looking at the realities, we have that this is year one of the biennial session, meaning it's a budget setting session to pass the 2-year operating budget. Typically, this means time to contemplate new things, new policy, versus a supplemental session, which is shorter in nature, more about tweaks. But noting the season we're in, it's a year of a lot of change. There's the new governor, his administration, lots of new lawmakers and shifting seats in the legislature. We have a new secretary at DCYF with Secretary Sen. This means new leadership, new opportunities, and new dynamics. There is also the economic reality that our state faces. There's the significant projected operating budget deficit over the next 4 years due to the slowing revenue growth and increasing costs to meet ongoing needs of current programs. And so, considering this, former Governor Inslee took the approach to the early learning space in his proposed budget to maintain access to existing programs, to right-size funding for programs, and to ensure that funding is responsive to legal requirements. He also responds to the projected he responded to the projected deficit by delaying the expansion of some programs and some program reductions. The goal of all these things is that if there are reductions, these reductions are the least harmful to the people we serve. And we have now also seen a plan from Governor Ferguson to address the budget shortfall, with Governor Ferguson adopting many of former Governor Inslee's proposed budget investments while also proposing new identified savings. And I'll compare these differences in a minute when I give a quick summary of Governor Ferguson's proposed budget and consider the 2025 DCYF legislative proposals. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. Before I give that kind of quick summary, I just want to highlight the priorities that guide DCYF's work, really focusing in on that fourth category, that fourth bucket over the legally required early learning expansions. And just kind of note that in light of the budget reality, the really iterative process of the legislative session, that there's space for that dynamic tension of acknowledging the positive outcomes from budget proposals, that not all of our expectations are met, and that there's always work to be done. And that we can hold that complex reality as we focus on that fourth bucket and our work to support children and families and providers. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, now this is got a lot of text on it, but I will move through it as concisely and as quickly as I can, but this is just a summary of Governor Ferguson's proposed budget. So that first piece is an ECAP reduction, which removes 1,505 part day slots that are contracted but unfilled. And that differs from the Inslee budget, which removed 845 unfilled part day slots. It also eliminates early ECAP slots, which was not in the Inslee budget. I'm sorry, is there a little bit of background noise for you all?
No,
Okay.
it sounds fine.
All right, thank you. The next piece is the ECAP rate increase. Governor Ferguson proposes a 10% rate increase in school day slots. And this differs from the Inslee budget, which proposed an 18% rate increase. The next piece is that it removes the proposed ECAP slot conversion and expansion. And in the Inslee budget, there was an inclusion in fiscal year 2027 of converting 250 part day slots to full day slots and adding 500 and full day slots, and it removes that proposal. These next two pieces, the dual language reduction and the trauma informed care reduction, it eliminates these for centers, so it reduces the direct provider payment while preserving collective bargaining agreement amounts and minimal parity for centers. So neither of these reductions were in the Inslee budget. The next piece, professional development activities and support reductions. That was not included in the Inslee budget, and I'm sorry, I have this out of order in my notes, but this includes contracts that train providers and develop them through relationship-based supports. And like I said, this was not included in the Inslee budget. The next piece, Working Connections co-payment changes to increase family co-pays to 7% of family income, was not included in the Inslee budget. And the next one removes proposed new investment in outreach to increase utilization of Working Connections program. This differs from the Inslee budget as this investment was included in the Inslee budget. Now, this next one, the Working Connections Center rate. The rate increase to the 85th percentile of the 2024 market survey is phased for centers only, so this differs from the Inslee approach to that. And then the last one, Working Connections remove hold harmless. This discontinues the policy of holding those providers harmless that have a rate that exceeds the 85th percentile of the 2024 market rate survey, as there is a subset of childcare providers that have a rate that exceeds the 85th percentile. And this reduction discontinues the policy of holding them harmless, bringing their rates down to the 85th percentile and making their rate equal to all other providers. And this piece was not included in the Inslee budget. So that's just a quick summary of the Ferguson budget as compared to the Inslee budget. I'd also like to note just very quickly, because that was a lot of dense information, that although this is all proposed and nothing has been passed into law yet, we at DCYF do recognize that what does pass will have impacts to children, to families, to providers, and that we are working across divisions on a communications crisis plan to ensure that we are identifying those impacts and that we are ready to communicate to our partners and to the people that we serve all those impacts, those changes to implementation and support plans and existing resources. Okay. Now I am ready for the next slide.
Courtney, why don't we, before we, sorry, hi everyone, it's Allison. I'm jumping on and joining today in case there's questions and to listen to Courtney's presentation. I'm wondering if we want to go back one slide and answer the questions in the chat relevant to the Ferguson budget as to not confuse matters.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Allison, could you actually take the phase for centers only one, please?
Can you speak really slowly for the interpreter, please?
Yes, thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
So the phased for centers piece, as a reminder, family child care providers are represented by SEIU 925. They have a collective bargaining agreement that contemplates their rates, the enhancements, the trauma-informed care rate or enhancement, the dual language rate, as well as subsidy rates. What Governor Ferguson's proposed budget did is left the collective bargaining agreement is remained intact. So there are no changes to what was bargained between family child care providers represented by SEIU 925 and the state of Washington. So when we talk about phased for centers or reductions for centers, what that means is the family child care investments negotiated in the CBA remain whole, and there are changes to the rate for centers. So for example, I think the question, Julie, was specific phased for centers on working connections rates. The rate increase for family child care as negotiated in the collective bargaining agreement would go into effect July 1 of 2025, the first beginning of the fiscal year. For centers, that is phased in. I see you shaking your head, Julie. Don't disagree. That is the reality. The collective bargaining agreement, the union is remained intact. That is just the reality. It is not a judgment statement. It is not a value statement to the work of center providers, certainly by the agency. That is the reality. That is the answer to the question.
No, I appreciate the answer. It doesn't make it any less frustrating.
I understand. I agree with you. Katie, what exactly is the removal of the utilization of working connections childcare?
Just what does that mean, the utilization of?
Yeah, a little bit.
What was that?
Yeah, a little bit of context. There was an ask for some specific dollars for outreach to drive up utilization of working connections childcare subsidy. Right now, we're at about a 17% uptake rate of those eligible statewide. And oh, thanks, Marlene. And we recognized that with the delayed expansion of working connections eligibility, we could target some investment with some additional resource in the currently eligible population. Ferguson's proposed budget eliminates those resources that would do some of that targeted outreach.
That helps.
I will turn it back over to Courtney.
Thank you, Allison. I appreciate you fielding those questions. Okay. I think we are ready for the next slide. Now, this is one that I think many people have probably seen before. It runs through DCYF's 2025 legislative proposals, our decision packages, but it considers what was fully funded, what was partially funded by Inslee's proposed budget. And after talking through Governor Ferguson's proposed budget, I am going to move through these a little bit quickly so that we have sufficient time to go over the bills that we're tracking as well. And so looking at this first one, we can probably skip down to the components include portion of the slide, just noting that Governor Ferguson opts out of the increase in dual language rates and increased funding for outreach portion of this. So we can go ahead and move on to the next slide, actually. And so this is where that phased for centers only question comes into play, Julie, where this was fully funded in the Inslee budget, and it is not fully funded to that level in Governor Ferguson's proposal. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. Now, this one complying with CCDF requirements. These things are not contemplated in Governor Ferguson's proposal, except for the one-time costs for an outreach and communication contract and training support for providers who participate in childcare subsidy programs. The other pieces are to comply with CCDF requirements. So we can go ahead and move on to the next slide. And this last one, ECAP entitlement, again, moving down to the components include piece. We can look at how the sustainable ECAP slot rates shift from an 18% slot rate increase to a 10% slot rate increase, and that Governor Ferguson opted to not pick up the slot conversion or to add more school day slots in fiscal year 2027. All right, I think we can go ahead and move on to the early learning bills. And I would also like to note that I have categorized these a little bit differently than in previous presentations, where they were in order in which they were introduced. These are more by theme. And so on this first page, we have Substitute House Bill 1489 and Substitute Senate Bill, which is actually now engrossed Substitute Senate Bill 5752. And this slide actually highlights that things change very quickly throughout session. In that some of the information for Substitute Senate Bill 5752 on this slide is no longer accurate. So I will provide an update to the bills that we are tracking just because things move quickly throughout session. I'd also just like to note that this is providing a list of bills that DCYF is tracking. It's not to provide a position on any of these bills, rather that the agency may provide technical feedback on the impacts that we identify in these bills, on implementation issues we may identify, but that this list that today is purely for tracking purposes. So looking at 1489 and 5752, these are bills that we are tracking as they take on that challenge of our current budget reality while intending to maintain stability in the early learning system and maintain current services in early learning. And they do a lot of similar things with 5752 going and making further modifications in certain regards to ECAP and working connections. I would also like to note that with 5752, it no longer repeals the early ECAP program. The current version of it makes early ECAP subject to appropriations. And I am actually going to put in the chat the bill report for 5752 and where it's currently at, as this bill contains a lot of provisions and I think it makes it a little bit easier to digest. We can go ahead and go on to the next slide. So these are a series of bills that contemplate ways of building on systemic supports within the childcare system, starting with House Bill 1314 and its companion Senate Bill 5297. This bill is moving. It makes changes to the Early Learning Facilities Grant and Loan Program, and it is one that we are tracking as it is administered by the Department of Commerce, but one that DCYF has a collaborative role on. The next bill is Substitute House Bill 1351, which is also moving and adjusts age requirements for accessing ECAP. This next one, Substitute Senate Bill 5500, is actually no longer moving as of Monday. So one that we need to take out of this list, but one that we will hopefully see more contemplative work on in the future. And then we see Senate Bill 5769 addressing transition to kindergarten programs, and one that we are tracking as we know that TTK is part of the early learning landscape.
Can you tell us what on the 5769, can you tell us what that would mean? What would be different from the current environment with TK? What would change here?
So this limits program enrollment to the annual average for the 2024-2025 school year. So that is capping enrollment. And then it removes TTK from the caseload forecast council's forecasts as well. So it's, Allison, I don't know if you're able to provide a little bit more nuance here.
It most simply, Julie, means that transition to kindergarten programs cannot grow. There will be no new ones next year if this were to pass or the Bergquist bill passes. It caps the level of TTK programs and slots. That's all it does.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, we can move on to the next one. This slide has only 2 bills on it, really, because it looks at provider support that removes barriers to operation, and it does so by contemplating different types of workforce support. And so this first one engrossed second substitute House Bill 1648 does a couple of things. And it looks at workforce support and development by extending the timeline for meeting staff qualification requirements. It adjusts the experience-based competency or the length of experience-based competency, and it creates a provider-directed work group to identify strategies to improve staff qualification and verification processes. And this bill we see this bill moving, as well as the next one, Substitute Senate Bill 5030, which removes barriers around accessing vital records and allows the acceptance of alternative documents to show a child's age or date of birth for enrollment in ECAP. So seeing provider support in 2 different ways there. We can go ahead and move. Sorry, go ahead, Julie. I saw you come off.
Yeah, I have a question about the staff. Modifying childcare provider qualifications. Yes. There was something you said it would create a work group. Will they be coming to this committee to ask for participants for the work group?
That is not a question I think I can answer at this moment, but Marlene says I believe so. But one that I can also take down to bring an answer back. More complete answer back later.
Yeah, Julie, we're working close with the Early Learning Division, and they are also watching these bills. So we'll definitely work with them if they need any support from providers.
Can I
Yeah,
say in the
I
den?
would think with a work group that they would want participation from providers. So I'm glad you're in touch with them, Marlene.
Can I just say in the dent bill too, like if you would like that to happen, you have to talk to your legislatures because the community colleges are definitely pushing to have this go away. In the most recent public hearing on this, they were very active in that space to be able to, I hate to use the word kill it, but kill it. And so if you want this extension, you got to talk to your legislatures to say why it's important.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, sorry. I got on my advocacy bandwagon.
Do you happen to know why they would like to kill it?
Is it because of
They
long wait lists to get into the programs? I do believe, was it Seattle Community College? They said their wait list to enter in the early childhood program was over 5 years, correct? Just to enter the program.
I'm not sure that that's true at every community college though. And since they created the stackable certificates,
correct.
They benefit from our workforce's enrollment in their ECE classes. So
Correct.
of course, it's not a surprise that they would show up to the hearings.
I don't think that recording's out yet, but it should be within the next week.
Where can we find it, if you don't mind?
All the recordings get posted on the Bill's legislative website. I don't want to say that incorrectly, but I usually find them on the legislative website. Courtney would probably know more where they actually live, but
Yeah, I just dropped the bill information page or whatever you call it in here. So there will be video posted here from the hearings.
And the early learning committee will be meeting tomorrow afternoon at 1. So you can log on and listen then.
Thanks, Sandra.
Sandra, did I say anything incorrect about the dent bill? I know that you've been more involved in that than I have, so.
No, you did not say anything incorrect about it. I think some of the misinformation that we have been hearing is that it sounded as if they were trying to kill teachers having education. And that's not what the bill is doing at all. We believe that our teachers need to be as qualified as anybody else in the classroom. It's just that we're coming out of COVID. We've got problems with the lanes of education that we need to fix. And we're just asking for more time to get it right so that our staff can prevail and be able to stay in the profession.
Thank you for putting that language to it. Sorry, Courtney.
Oh, you're fine. No, thank you, Sandra. I think that was helpful information. And I think it's also valuable to see that this bill has gone through a couple different versions. And so that there's a lot of thought going into that intention of supporting providers and ensuring that there's access to different pathways. These next bills are also on that same theme of removing barriers to operation, but in a different way. These are really those sort of structural barriers. And we see 3 bills that are moving. The first one being Substitute Senate Bill 5509, which changes permitting allowances to reduce some of those hurdles for sites coming online in certain areas. Next, we see Substitute Senate Bill 5545, And that exempts family home providers that are certified by a federal military service from childcare licensing. And there are certain stipulations in this one for child safety and oversight clarity. And then this last one, substitute Senate Bill 5655, clarifies things around occupancy load. In that when a child center is operating in a dedicated space in an existing building that has more than one occupancy, the occupancy must only be calculated where childcare services are provided. So I believe, yep, those are the bills that we're currently tracking, kind of broken down by those sort of different themes. We have a lot of information on our government affairs webpage, including our decision packages, recordings of previous presentations. Allison, who is our Director of Public Affairs, and Renee Newkirk, our Chief Financial Officer, gave a webinar on former Governor Inslee's budget proposals earlier this year, and they will be giving an upcoming mid-session legislative webinar on April 3rd from 3 to 4 p.m. And that information is on our government affairs page as well. So if you would like to attend, I encourage you to be there. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out anytime. That is my email there. It is also on the government affairs webpage.
Good job, Courtney. Thank you so much.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Allison,
Thank
that was a
you.
lot of
Absolutely.
information.
Yes, and thank you. Thank you so much, Allison, for jumping on as well. I'm sorry if I went too fast. It was a lot to get through.
No, you did great. Thank you so much.
And
We all appreciate all the work you guys are doing.
I'll just reinforce what Courtney shared at the top. Proposed budgets for the House and Senate come out on Monday. It will take DCYF's government affairs and fiscal team a few days to get through those. It's always harder when they come out on the same day. I just want to be really clear, although perhaps better than Fridays. So we all retain one final weekend before the sprint to the finish here. It'll take us a couple of days to get through the impacts of those budgets. So just bear with us. We may not have answers right away, but we will get communication out as soon as we've unpacked those on impacts to reductions in the early learning space. And then that mid-session webinar that Courtney referenced is a great place to come and get sort of that macro level information around the impacts to DCYF. So thank you all.
Thank you. Don't forget to fill out the Survey Monkey with all the information. We would love to have your feedback and for the future use of what we include in our meetings. So thank you guys again, and I will hand it over back to Dave.
All right, and now we're going to transition very quickly to a presentation on an overview of the community childcare conversations, formerly known as the forums. And with us today, we have childcare program manager Jennifer Gomes and childcare area administrators Natasha Reed and Karen Christensen. Thank you for being here today, all three of you, and I will let you guys kick it off, and I'll help monitor the chat and get any of those questions in here as we go through this.
Thank you, Dave. Hi, everyone. As Dave said, thank you for introducing us. I'm Jennifer Gomes, Childcare Program Manager. I am working closely with all of the partners to help coordinate the 2025 childcare community conversations. And like Dave said, those last year we referred to them as forums. So the 2025 series will be virtual moving forward until further notice. We are beginning planning stages for in-person sessions depending on budget constraints for travel, etc. So in-person sessions are in the works. Currently, our series will focus on agendas that are tailored to each region based on feedback from those regions and need. pre-submitted questions, smaller group sizes, and longer question and answer sessions. And these changes are all driven by feedback we received from our 2024 series as well, from our provider communities. For the virtual sessions, if we reach capacity or we determine that we need to offer separate sessions or, excuse me, additional sessions to focus on language needs, then we will do so. Let's go to the next slide, please. And I'll talk a little more about that. So providers are being invited by targeted emails sent by region. Then we're doing follow-up advertisements in our early care and education monthly newsletters. And then also we have, oh, thank you, Jessica. I was just going to drop those in the chat and you've done that for me. We've got our information on our webpage on the DCYF licensing side, and then also on the community engagement side, so that it's easier for our providers to locate that information. As we transition into more in-person sessions, we will be featuring updated flyers, and we're currently now working on social media campaigns as well. You'll notice on our web pages that we don't have live registration links because, again, we are sending out targeted emails to our providers by region so that we can hold those slots for those providers in that region specifically. And we can go ahead and move to the next slide. So upcoming dates, we've got two this week. Thursday, tomorrow night, 6 to 7:30. That is for Mason and Grace Harbor County providers only. It's virtual. Saturday morning, we're offering one for Bellevue and North King County providers only. Again, these times, evenings and weekends, are directly based on provider feedback and the need. And also the virtual sessions, we received feedback from our providers in our more populous regions that they really need access to virtual sessions. It's really difficult for them to get there in person versus.
Oh, yes. No, go ahead.
Okay, versus different parts of our state prefer in-person sessions. And so our AAs that are here today, Natasha and Karen, will talk more about the planning for the in-person sessions a little bit later in this presentation. Can
you describe North King County, just so people that might be thinking that they should be expecting an email for that one and didn't get it? What would be North King County versus the King County one that will be in August?
So North King County is limited to folks in, and Karen and Natasha, I'm going to ask you to jump on and help me here. More Everett. Well, Everett is Snohomish County, right? So it would just be more like Linwood and the northern parts of Bellevue and the east side. Karen and Natasha, can you help me?
Yeah, like Northgate. So our Bellevue office is really East King County. There's even like a Renton zip code. We tried to target it so that the licensors, supervisors, and AA attached to that office would be able to be in attendance and support their providers. I wish I could pull up a map to kind of show it. But it's like Woodinville, Bellevue, Mercer.
I think that's helpful. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If somebody was expecting to get something on March 22nd and they didn't, they should just assume that they're in that King County providers only.
Yep, that they're probably going to be down in the Renton office. But if for any reason, if you think you were missed, please email your licensor, email one of the local AAs to find out if you should have been in the email and for some reason maybe it went to your spam. I've heard that from some folks. And I did notice in the chat someone talked about attending in a different form. I would say we're not telling you that you can't. It's just that the emails are going to be targeted for the license providers in those local communities. Like those emails are gonna go directly to our Bellevue and our North King folks, and then the ones in Renton. So for some reason, maybe your Thursday meeting doesn't work. You can attend one of the King County meetings if that's your preference. You just would not meet your local licensing staff. And really, that's who we wanted the conversations for, to build those relationships with our local office. But there's nothing saying that you can't attend wherever you would like.
Thank you, Natasha. There's also maps on those web pages that we dropped in the chat for folks to be able to find their local office. So there are lists of local offices, and there's also maps to explain where in the state the different offices cover. So that's another resource. Also, Saturday, May 10th, we have a virtual session planned from 9 to 11 a.m. That's for our Renton providers only. So those served out of the Renton DCYF office. Like I said before, we are planning ahead for the need to possibly offer an additional session. We have a really big concentration of providers that speak and have East African language needs. So we are working toward the very likely possibility of adding another session dedicated to those provider groups. Also, in the summer, we have another one August 9th set for King County providers only. Same thing, we're expecting a pretty large turnout for that. That's a large group, and we are being flexible and planning to offer additional sessions as needed. As an example, for our session this Saturday on the 22nd, we have, for all sessions, we have translated presentation materials, surveys, and multiple language interpreter channels to accommodate needs. And we have folks that have requested services in Russian, Spanish, Somali, Tagalog, Amharic, Farsi, Arabic, and Chinese. So just as an example of the services we are providing and really tailoring those to each region's needs. And we can go ahead and move on to the next slide, and I will hand it over to Natasha and Karen.
Okay, I'll go, Natasha. I am the area administrator that works with all of our Eastern Washington offices. So those are the areas that I'll be covering today. Region 1 includes our Wenatchee and our Spokane office. And we've been waiting to do in person, so we haven't scheduled virtual ones. It makes a lot of sense why King County is doing them virtually. And for our providers and licensing staff, they really wanted them to be in person. So we have waited and have just learned that we can start to schedule those, and we're going to start doing that. Because there are so many providers in regions 1 and 2 that speak Spanish as their main language, then we are going to do sessions in English and sessions in Spanish. And so all in Wenatchee and Spokane, they're planning English and Spanish ones. Spokane is planning center and family home ones. It just really depends on the office and what the makeup of providers is there. So we're sort of tailoring it to what we know the providers will want, and we'll be reaching out to them more for that. In Region 2, that's our Tri-Cities and Yakima offices. And again, they have many, many Spanish-speaking providers, so they're going to do sessions in English and Spanish. And there will probably be more of each of those. So they may do a couple in Spanish and a couple in English. Same with Tri-Cities and Wenatchee, Yakima, all three of them. So they're really just needing to tailor it to what the providers want. And like I said, they wanted to do it in person because they're just used to meeting in person with providers a lot. So I think we'll get going on scheduling those again, and hopefully we're looking at potentially summer to do that.
All right, I'll jump in. So I am an AA in Region 4, but I did chat with Brenda in Region 3, and then Maggie in Region 5-6 about what they have going on. So at this time in Region 3, they do not have a meeting scheduled. Brenda would like to do them in person. And since we did get the green light to do them in person, she will work with her team in the next couple weeks to get them scheduled for Region 3. She's hoping to get something in, I think she said June, July. So towards the end of our fiscal year, maybe the start of the next fiscal year. For Region 4, we do have them scheduled virtually. And as Jennifer pointed out earlier, we are going to focus on language support. So when we get our registration forms back, if there is a need to have additional meetings for Spanish only or Somali only or Oromo, any other languages, then we will focus on having those meetings at the same time. We're hoping to keep our dates scheduled since we already worked with our licensing staff to get those on their calendars. So if we just need to send different links for meetings, we will do that. And then now that we know that we can have in-person meetings, our August meeting will likely be in person. We just haven't decided a location yet. And of course, for us in King County, it's a little difficult to figure out a central location because we get folks that are like, it should be in Bellevue, it should be in Seattle, it should be in Federal Way, because we covered all of King County. Last year we had it in Berrien. As DCYF staff, we thought it was a great location, but afterwards we still got folks that were like, this should have been in Renton, because that is more convenient for them. So we'll do our best to figure out a location as central as possible that we can do in King County, but we know there are going to be some folks that are still not going to like the location, but we'll do our best, I promise. That's our Region 4. For Region 5 and 6, Maggie has not scheduled one for Region 5 yet. They one of their supervisors is retiring here in a couple weeks. A new supervisor literally, I think, just started on Monday. So she'll have a couple weeks with the current supervisor, do some onboarding. So they'll schedule for Region 5. Region 6 does have the one scheduled for Thursday, and then they'll have some additional ones scheduled since that supervisor is retiring and the new supervisor just got onboarded. So they should put out here in the next, I think she said month or so, schedule for their meetings throughout the rest of the year. I think we covered the whole state.
I did make a note in the chat. I think it's confusing sometimes on the page that you guys have on the DCYF website where it says the different offices. There's not a corresponding map that goes along with those offices. And with the offices, it also doesn't say like this office serves these 10 cities or whatever. I think that sometimes people get confused about which office actually serves their center, depending on, especially in the areas that are more kind of populated or dense. And so, and then we see here in this, it's by regions, but then when we're setting up the forms, it's by kind of towns and cities and locations. And so there seems to be, in my mind, and I might be the only one, it seems like we're kind of passing in the wind in terms of like corresponding all those things together. It's just something maybe to think about in the future. Just to be able to say, you know, what, either make the forms by the regions or, you know, a different way for people to have a good understanding of which office they should that they actually know that they are connected with. And from someone that is not just in one site, I sometimes struggle to know which location serves each one of those spots.
I appreciate that feedback.
Yeah, it's a good point. Jennifer, did you have more to add in general?
No, we can go ahead and move on to the next slide for questions, and thank you all for having us today.
All right, does anybody have any questions about the upcoming forms that Karen and Natasha and Jennifer have not answered yet for you? I hope that everyone has the chance to take an opportunity to be able to go to their sessions and ask good questions and have good conversation with the licensors and the other administrators that are going to be there to support. All right. Well, Karen and Natasha and Jennifer, thank you so much for joining today. And we're really looking forward to these sessions. And go ahead, Karen.
No, just thanks for having us. It's
absolutely
always good to just get the news out.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and it'll be interesting to see how kind of this new system works. And I hope that we get some good conversations going. So thank you so much for joining.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
All right. Okay, so now I am going to turn it back to Katie for our meeting wrap up.
Yeah, we're pretty early today. We're running ahead of time.
Oh, and I should say too, sorry, please feel free to fill out the Survey Monkey for this particular section of the meeting as well, to be able to make sure that we have good feedback on what they presented. Sorry, Katie.
Oh, that's okay. I guess, does anybody have any other questions pertaining to any of our speakers today and the departments? You can go ahead and put them in the chat or raise your hand. Make sure we don't have anybody with questions before we say goodbye. Doesn't look like it. Well, our next meeting is going to be May 21st. I don't even want to say the word May because we're still not done with March. But Wednesday, May 21st, 2025. Oh, who was that? Nothing? Okay. The meeting follow-up and closing remarks. Please do the Survey Monkeys. We really appreciate any of the feedback that you guys give. It really helps us for future meetings and our planning. So we really appreciate the participation today. We had some really great speakers, some new ones that we haven't heard from, and appreciate everybody here on both sides. So with that, have a great day, guys.